Hello guys, today we're going to do a quick little lesson on section 3.8, solving problems with fractions. I want you to write down this title and then we'll get to it. Okay, so by now you should have the title written down. Now we're going to talk about different keywords for solving word problems. So I want you to pause, write down this note, and then we'll discuss it. Okay, so by now you should have this note down. So, when solving word problems, it is important to identify the operation needed to solve the problem. And you can remember keywords that will help you decide what operation you use. So remember, operation means adding, subtracting, multiplying or timesing, whatever you want to call it, and dividing. So a lot of keywords to look for that will let you know when to add is words like total or altogether or sum. Subtracting words are things like difference or how much longer, how much shorter. Those are good words that will tell you that subtracting is the operation you need to use. Multiplying words is of. So if you saw half of 10, that's a half times 10. Okay, or times. How many times more? That signifies multiplying. And dividing words are things like shared. If I had a group of cookies and there was 5 people, how would I share them up? That's dividing. And per is another word that's used for dividing. That one you don't see as often. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to do an example here. And now, I know you've done word problems before, but this is word problems with fractions. So we're going to be doing not only multiplying and dividing fractions, that's what we learned in grade 8. We're also going to have a few problems where you have to add and subtract fractions, which comes from grade 7. So we're combining both skills from grade 7 and 8 to now solve these word problems. Okay, so the unfortunate thing about word problems is that I want you to write these down in your exercise book. Yep, write these down in your exercise book, and so then you have a good example. We're only doing 2 today, so it's not too much writing, and then we'll solve them together. So pause the video, write this down, leave some space for your solution, and when we come back, we'll do it together. Okay, so by now you should have this written down in your exercise book. Alright, so Cassie worked on her science fair project for 3 over 4 hours, 3/4, on Thursday, and 5 over 6 hours on Wednesday. How long did Cassie spend on her science project altogether? So we'll work on this before we move on to the second part. So what keywords do we have here? How long did Cassie spend on her science project altogether? So if you remember, altogether, I'm going to flick back here, altogether is an adding word, so we have to add. Okay, so we're looking for how many hours she spent on Thursday plus how many hours she spent on Wednesday. Okay, so let's combine them. 3 over 4 plus 5 over 6. Okay, so when we're adding fractions, remember we need a common denominator. So a common denominator between 4 and 6, I'm going to choose 12. And this is grade 7 stuff. Okay, 4 times what gives me 12? I had to multiply 4 by 3 to get 12. So whatever I do to the bottom, I need to do to the top. So 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, now let's look at the second fraction. 6 times 2 gives me 12, so I multiply my bottom by 2. That means I need to multiply my top by 2. 5 by 2 is 10. We have a common denominator here, so we're good to add. We keep our denominator. And then we add our numerators. Okay, and then we're going to simplify that by putting 12 goes into 19 once, and then there is 7 left over, and we keep our denominator. So how long did Cassie spend on her science project altogether? She spent 1 hour and 7/12 hours on her science project altogether. I'm going to put an H there to signify hours. Okay, next problem. How much longer did Cassie spend on the project on Wednesday than on Thursday? Okay, so how much longer? That's a keyword that signifies that we're supposed to use subtracting. Okay, so how much longer did she spend on the project on Wednesday than on Thursday? So on Wednesday she spent 5/6. And on Thursday she spent 3/4. How much longer means we subtract. So we then again get our common denominators. 12. So this one up here became 10/12. This one over here became 9/12. The reason I know that is because I'm just using this up here. Okay, we have a common denominator, so we are able to keep our common denominator and just subtract our numerators. 10 minus 9 is 1. So Cassie spent 1/12 of an hour longer on her project on Wednesday than on Thursday. Okay, take a second, make sure you have that all written down. If you have any questions, let me know.
Just really enjoying it. Read it more.
What? Hold on.
Oh, just
Okay, so moving on to the next problem now. Okay, so just take a minute, write this one down, then we'll try this one together. Okay, so you should have this one down, and you should have space here for your answers. So, Freddie volunteered at a gift wrapping booth one afternoon. He worked for 2 hours and 2 3/4 hours and wrapped 11 boxes. His friend Sam volunteered 1 1/3 times as long. So Sam volunteered for a longer amount of time. How long did Freddie spend wrapping each box? Okay, so we have the word each here. Alright, so he worked for 2 hours and 3/4 and wrapped 11 boxes. Okay, so what operation do you think we do there? Okay, so anytime you see the word each, and we have, this is almost like a sharing problem, so division problem. So he worked for 2 3/4 hours and wrapped 11 boxes. So what we're going to do, we're going to take our time and divide that by 11. So 2 3/4 divided by 11. So we have a mixed number now divided by a whole number. So what's our first step when dealing with mixed numbers? We convert because it's easier. So 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. Keep our denominator, 11/4. And that's divided by 11 boxes. Okay, and what's our step when we're dealing with whole numbers? We need to change it into a fraction by putting it over 1. Perfect. Now what's our step here? We're dividing, so we have to keep, change, flip. So 11/4, keep our first fraction, times it by, change our operation, and flip our second fraction. So 11/1 becomes 1/11. Okay, that's great. Now if we look here, we can simplify our corners. 11 goes into 11 once, so this becomes a 1 on top. Okay, and we haven't done anything with the denominator here, so we keep that, times by, and 11 divided by 11 here, that becomes 1. And we haven't done anything here on top, so it's 1. So 1/4 times 1/1, multiply our numerators together, multiply our denominators together, get a quarter. So, how long did Freddie spend wrapping each box? It took him 1/4 of an hour. Alright, so let's look at the second part of this. How many hours did Sam volunteer? So, Sam volunteered 1 1/3 times as long. So, times is a key word here that shows that we have to multiply. So Sam worked 1 1/3 times as long as Freddie. So Sam worked 1 1/3 times as long as Freddie. And how long did Freddie work? 2 and 3/4. What's our first step here? Our first step is to convert to improper because it's easier to work with. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. Keep my denominator. Times by. Convert this one. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. Over 4. We can simplify if we can. I'm looking here. I can simplify my corners. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Didn't do anything here, so we keep our denominator. Times by, didn't do anything here, so we keep. And then on the bottom, 4 divided by 4 is 1. Top times top is 11. Bottom times bottom is 3. 11 over 3. Let's simplify that into a nice mixed number. 3 goes into 11 3 times, and you have 2 remainder. Keep our denominator. So Sam volunteered for 3 and 2/3 hours. Perfect. Okay, so if you have any questions about that, let me know. If not, you're free to move on to the practice work. And here's the practice work today. A lot of this, deciding what operation to use, a lot of that comes with practice. So just keep that in mind today. Don't get frustrated if it's not apparent right away what operation to use. Just keep trying, and after a few practice problems, you'll start to catch on. Just remember your key words. So that's that. Good luck with it, guys, and let me know how you're doing.